Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about the MK swearing in, and we're also going to talk about weSizwe swearing in. Let's start by just outlining that MK as a party, uMkhonto weSizwe as a party, does deserve robust media scrutiny and attention. They are officially the official opposition. That's what their status is in the democracy. And as such, the role that they play in parliament, in the politics of South Africa, is significant. They take over that role, of course, because the Democratic Alliance has joined the governing coalition, although that status is, still up in the air to a degree because of the debates around how the cabinet will be structured. As things stand, uMkhonto weSizwe is the official opposition, and as such, they deserve robust media scrutiny and coverage. That's also why I'm covering them, because they matter. Number two, they represent 2.3 million voters. And because of the size of that constituency, we also cannot ignore them. 15% of the voters who voted is actually a significant share, and that's a share that we have to take seriously. And number three, we have to take them seriously because of the legacy brands that they carry within the establishment of the MK party, brands such as Jacob Zuma. So uMkhonto weSizwe is a serious political outfit that must be taken as such. I think that anybody who is speaking in a way that seems to undercut that is somebody who's not being genuine to the political moment of 2024 and even going to 2026 and 2029. So we saw them swearing in, today. And, here's an interesting clip of some of the prominent people from MK being sworn in.
Constitution. We will now proceed with the administering of the oath or affirmation to members. Members will be called in groups of 5. Will members, when their names are called out, please come forward to take their oath or affirmation, as the case may be. Members should, after taking the oath or affirmation, sign duplicate certificates at their desks. After I have countersigned the certificates, members will receive one of the certificates for their records. I now call upon the Secretary to read out the names of the members to be sworn in. Thank you very much.
Kodwa Ngediso, good enough. Kubane Joel Sihle, Zuma Sambudla Duduzile, Ndlela Nhlamulo, Njingila Edward Mzikayise.
Do all of you consider the oath or affirmation as binding on your conscience?
Yes.
You may then proceed to read the oath.
I
Those members who took the oath, raise their right hand and say, "So help me God." Those who affirm, put up the right hand and say, "I do."
There was an interesting discussion that happened between a journalist from the SABC and Dr. John Hlophe. And it's just interesting to hear some of the highlights of what he had to say about himself, about the MK, about the role that they will be playing.
I'm not a judge. I don't even want to be called a judge, but people still call me a judge. I don't call myself a judge. I call myself Dr. Hlophe because I have a doctorate in law. Nobody will take that away from me. Even Cyril Ramaphosa will never take that away from me. He took away the title of a judge, but that I'm Dr. Hlophe, he will never take it away. There is a chief whip, Mr. Sihle Ngubane. He is a chief whip. I am the leader of the party in parliament. Remember, President Zuma is still alive, who founded this party. He is the president of the party, but unfortunately, he can't be in parliament. You are aware of that because of that's what the courts have decided. He's still challenging that, right? So I am the leader of the party in parliament, and Mr. Sihle Ngubane, standing over there, is the chief whip. What I consider to be important, it is to work very closely with my colleagues, especially the chief whip, Secretary General, and the spokesperson for the party. That's number one. Once you have solid leadership and we take decisions collectively, and we don't undermine each other, and we work together. So my first challenge is to build a team, trust, so that we understand each other very well, so that there is no misunderstanding between us. But most importantly, President Zuma is still the president of the party. I don't want people to get between us and say Zuma said this in a rally and Hlophe said that. For that reason, I said to President Zuma a couple of days ago when I visited him at his home in Nkandla, and I'm not hiding that. I go to Nkandla whenever I want to. I said to him, it is very important for us, this is myself now and President Zuma, to be seen together in public rallies so that there is no divided leadership, MK in parliament and MK outside parliament. So you are going to see me wearing traditional outfit with a spear, Namkhele, and everything else that Zuma wears. The decision to impeach me was a political decision. I said it before I was impeached, and I maintain that. There was no law that was ever used there. It was politics, and I do believe that the fact that I was perceived as being closely associated with President Zuma is another reason for the decision that was taken. And I think if you look around in the country, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see that a lot of people who were closely aligned to President Zuma have been persecuted in this country. You don't have to be a genius to see that. There is a clear trend that if you are regarded as a Zuma fan, you get persecuted in this country.
Well, I'm here as a member of parliament, to be sworn in as a member of parliament.
There was a lot of uncertainty about whether we were going to see you here today or not. I assume everything's been cleared up with the party, and that is why you were here?
The list of the party has been certified. I'm on that list. You are expected as a member who are on that list to come and be sworn in as a member of parliament. That's why I'm here today.
And the step-aside rule, would it apply to you in this instance?
Well, the party will answer that question. But I'm on the list which has been certified. That's why I had to come here, because for you to be a member of parliament, you have first and foremost to be sworn in, either by the judge or the acting judge. In this case, I think there's the acting judge of Western Cape.
Mr. Koba, you were sworn in on the 13th of June along with the other members of the African National Congress and the other political parties. Why were you not there?
I'm sure you spotted me on the 13th at the city ICC. I came to register. That is when I got this card. Not today. But in the morning of the 14th, I had some urgent family matters that I had to fly back to Johannesburg. I was ready to be sworn in on that day. Hence this offer to come here today, because for me to do any functions of a member of parliament, I have first and foremost to be sworn in.
You appeared in court the other day who were arraigned. Do you still maintain your innocence?
My innocence, I think the state case is non-existent, but that matter, I'm not here about it now. We'll ventilate other matters when we have time at an appropriate platform.
Section 2 of the...
Here's some interesting discussion points that I think we need to recognize. It's becoming clear who the leadership of the MK is going to be and what is the first team, if you will. Right. So you've got the president of the party being Jacob Zuma, who is going to be basically running things from Nkandla. You've got the leader in parliament, Dr. John Hlophe. As he said, he wants to be referred to as Dr. John Hlophe. What does he bring to the table? He brings to the table this vast amount of legal scholarship, this vast amount of legal experience from the bench as a judge. And that will be something that I think will be important for giving tutelage to the 57 other members of the benches of the MK party who don't have that. In getting him to be the leader of the party, he is one of the best and most brilliant legal minds in Africa as things stand. This is something that I think adds gravitas to the work that the MK party is doing. Number two, so we've got Jay-Z, we've got Dr. John Hlophe, we've got Arthur Zwane, who is going to be the Secretary General, and he's taking over from Sihle Ngubane, who is now the Chief Whip in Parliament. Then you've got Hlamulo Ndlela, who's also going to be in Parliament. So you see that there's a structure, there's a shape, there's a form to this organization. We're beginning to see who are the voices we need to look to, who are the voices we need to look at, who are the thinkers in the party, who are the people who are going to be providing different elements to the party. The party also has, a diverse list of names. You've got Visvin Reddy, you've got Miriam Baby Mohammed, you've got Shungham Ramsey Moodley. So there's black people, there's Indian people. That's diverse. That's diverse. And that's something that I think is just worth noting in and of itself. One of the things I just want to discuss, and this one is just, Jabulani Khumalo, where are you? I've looked at the list. I don't see you here. Jabu, where are you on the list, my guy? Where's your name? Wow, the story of Jabulani Khumalo, to me, one of the biggest political flops that we've seen in recent times. How do you get this opportunity? You found a party, you're requested to found a party. You go, you found the party, you go, you keep quiet, you manage issues, you are a disciplined member, and then boom, in 2024, you take a bag. So anyway, I'm sure he's happy with his Land Cruiser and his Mercedes-Benz that he is alleged to have bought. But Jabulani, you could be a member of parliament right now. You could be the leader of opposition. You could be. These are lessons. These are lessons. I mean, if you get an opportunity in politics like this, sometimes you just have to stay loyal to your team. You have to go through with everything, and you have to ride or die. Jabulani tried to get a bag. He tried to take the party from Jacob Zuma, make it his party. I don't know why he thought that would work, but that was a naive strategy and one that definitely has failed. He's going to go down as one of the biggest political jokes in the history of South African politics. Because what are you doing? Jabulani, what are you doing? Anyway, that's just me. I just wanted to just say that that whole story for me looked like it was an obvious disaster from the jump. I want to talk a little bit about Dudu Zuma Sambundla. And I think she's an interesting name because she has a lot to prove. When you come in as the daughter of the leader of the political party, that puts a lot of pressure on you. When you come in as somebody who has been portrayed in ways that make it seem like, no, you're not serious or you don't take things seriously, that's also something that puts a lot of pressure on you. So she has to show, number one, that she is a politician in her own right. She has to show that. She has to show that she has an ideological framework. She has to show that she has an understanding of the political dynamics in South Africa that affect Black women, in particular, Black people more broadly, but also affect Africans more broadly as well. And she may need to do a lot of work to be able to strengthen the quality of her responses when she's doing media interviews, if she does any. She seems to me to have a grasp of political dynamics in the sense of organizational politics, working as a political operator. I think people underestimate her when it comes to that. But when it comes to frontline politics, as in political scholarship, she has to do a lot. And she will have a glare on her because of her father and because even of the perceptions and accusations around her saying that, she at some point was celebrating when the July unrest happened in 2021. So these are all things that she will have to work on. And there will be pressure on her and there will be attention on her. I just want to say one thing about her before I move on. There was an attack that came about, which I thought was illegitimate. Number one of the attacks was a discussion on her relationships. Who is she dating? Is she dating Klamulo, etc.? I found that to be gutter journalism, and I found that to be distasteful. And that's something that people don't do for the other politicians. Some of us who know these MPs and know their, mjolo behaviors, there's a lot that could be said, but it's not said because it's not professional to discuss the bedroom affairs of members of parliament. They are none of our business and they should remain none of our business, right? Some journalists even have relationships with politicians. Nobody says anything because it should not necessarily be given that kind of status. It's gossip and it's unnecessary. So I thought that was a dirty attack. And number two, this attack on the fact that she's somebody who has posted fun TikToks, maybe at a swimming pool or a beach or whatever the case may be, I also found to be misogynistic and sexist and trying to objectify a member of parliament in a way that was unsanctioned and unjustified. We really have to do more around the quality of discourse we have around issues like this. Obviously, human beings are multidimensional. They'll go to the swimming pool, they'll go to the beach, they'll go wherever. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Alexandria, right? Ocasio-Cortez is a prominent American congresswoman, and she is viewed by many people to be attractive. She's young, she does fun things which are in line with what she's doing in life in terms of being a young person. And it's always illegitimate when people try to objectify her in the way that they do. And I think we need to really call out any of that kind of behavior as being something that is just beyond the pale and should not be done just because it's a Zuma name, right? The idea that if there's a Zuma name on it, people should be treated differently, I think is one that we must disabuse ourselves of, because it's not a legitimate way of engaging in political discourse, right? Whether it's Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma or Tutu Zuma or whoever the case may be, right? I think we have to extend that humanity and independence to everyone, and including her. But she's still going to have a lot to prove in this particular parliament. Let's talk about Zizi. He swore in, he gave that speech that you saw him giving. And I think there are going to be questions around, one, the step aside rule, and number two, the commitment of the ANC to fighting corruption. Because the reason why the step aside rule came into being was we were told to deal with issues of corruption, perceptions of corruption. Is it because that he occupied these serious portfolio positions where he may know too much to be removed? Who knows? Maybe that's the case. Maybe they don't want him to be an opponent to the party at this kind of a fragile time. Maybe he really has some files on everybody because he was in state security. So he may very well have intelligence that he's using to make sure that he can keep his job. But it's going to be interesting to see how that is navigated. There are people who are going to have question marks about, one, the step aside rule, and two, this idea of renewal and cleansing the ANC from corrupt people. What then happens if people who were implicated in the State Capture Commission then are given cabinet positions? Does that then reflect renewal? What does that mean? So that's what happened today. I wonder, what do you guys think about the MK being in parliament, about Dr. John Hlophe being the leader of the party, about different figures within the party? Oh yeah, I forgot. I wanted to talk about Andile Mngxitama. He's been out of the political game for a little bit in terms of frontline politics, but he's been trying to, work close to Jacob Zuma, to be loyal to Jacob Zuma. And I think he finally got a reward here in that he also was able to go back into parliament. But aside from this personal story that he has, Andile Mngxitama remains one of the prominent Black consciousness scholars in South Africa. And I think his presence on the parliamentary benches may help MK Party to also strengthen its politics in respect to Black consciousness, in respect to identity politics, which still matter and are still relevant in the South African framework, right? 30 years does not erase 300 years of oppression and structural and systemic racism and some of the interpersonal dynamics that we are still seeing at play. We are seeing DA members wearing blackface. We're seeing DA members defending racist statements made by some of their members and even saying we need to understand context, etc. So that type of political scholarship is still necessary, and Mngxitama may be able to provide that. I think it's something that he then becomes an asset for. Many people may not know this about him, but he used to be part of a movement which was called the September National Imbizo, if I'm not mistaken, which used to organize and mobilize around these ideas of Black consciousness and Pan-Africanism. And it was part of that activism that made the EFF reach out to him because they wanted that kind of scholarship when he was approached by EFF and joined the EFF. They wanted that kind of scholarship. They wanted that kind of contribution. So his presence here as well does give that, let's call it intellectual infusion. I think he's actually back at Wits now doing his PhD. So he's not a trivial character in the political framework, although sometimes he has said things which are very, very, very controversial and even unconstitutional themselves. Some of his remarks, which he had to retract when he was still the leader of Black First, Land First, were definitely remarks that I don't share and whose ideas that I don't co-sign. But in the context of what does he bring to the MK Party, he brings that. Oh yeah, and lastly, we saw Des van Rooyen actually going back as well as a member of parliament. If you recall, he was the shortest serving finance minister in South Africa. But he actually is qualified in finance, and he will be able to give the MK Party contributions from that respect. You know, you mustn't judge a book by its cover. Every time I look at Des van Rooyen, I can see why people are always attacking him. He doesn't look like he studied finance, He doesn't wear fancy suits. He doesn't wear glasses or anything like that. And he's not necessarily the greatest public speaker, but he is qualified in finance. Point blank. He's qualified in finance. He has the qualifications. And even though there were fair criticisms when he was appointed as finance minister, I was one of the people who had those criticisms because I'd never heard of this guy. But his presence on the MK party benches does give them some financial scholarship, thinking, expertise as well. So you may actually see him in some committees which are pertaining to that. So that's the last thing I want to say about this. So what do you guys think about the MK going to parliament? Do you think it's a good team? Do you think it's a team that will give them longevity? Do you think that it's a team that makes them bigger than Zuma in terms of like now a real political party, not just a family project? Let's have a conversation. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed to the channel. I really appreciate you. 86% of the people who are watching these videos haven't subscribed yet. So if that's one of you, please consider subscribing. It really helps other people find the channel. Comments, I'm so grateful that for all of the comments. I love the people who agree, who disagree. It's all good in the hood. Thank you so much. So if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. Till the next one.